probably about as good as that's gonna get. So what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. It's been a little while since I've actually gone out and recorded anything in the car with this mount, kind of like doing a little bit more of a hands-free kind of vlog style. Today we're going to do that because it's going to be a short little video talking about the build of the A3 so far. Now, since it is, I think it's November the 14th today, we're getting close to the end of the year, 2020, which has been a disaster for basically the entire planet, and the build hasn't basically gotten to a point of where I really would like it to be at so far this year. I'm going to break down what parts are in the A3 so far up to this point, how much money we've spent, and then maybe we'll talk about a couple more things that we would be looking to put into the A3 in the near future. I actually have to go get gas, so we're gonna go for a little bit of a drive, and we're gonna talk about what is under the hood of the A3, under my butt in the A3. Ooh, the brakes. Haven't driven the car in a couple. All right, so I've actually made a little bit of a list that I actually have to reference off of because even I forget all the things that I have done to the A3. So if you're new to the channel and you're just checking out this video because you want to see an A3 build and you're in North America, obviously, because in the UK, you lucky son of a guns got the S3 and the RS3 in the 8P chassis, so you got quite a bit more engine options, actually configurations as well. You guys got the two-door, we didn't, so that's a little bit sad for us. Since we did only get the A3, you know, here we have worked with it quite well, and there's a lot of other builds out here that have a lot crazier numbers than what I've got under the hood right now of my A3, but nonetheless, this is a very, so far, conservative build in terms of not only the 2-liter, which came in the Mark 6 GTI, the A3 obviously, the A4 platform. There are a lot faster cars, but I'd say mine is definitely quite a clean build, a very problem-free build so far, like knock on wood, but there isn't any in here. So we'll start with the first thing, and obviously if you're looking into power upgrading your A3, that would be stage one. And stage one for you non-VW guys is just an intake, or in some cases not even an intake, just a tune. So I have a CTS Turbo EA 888 intake for my car, brand new. That's $450 Canadian. All these numbers will be in Canadian. If you want to know how much it is in USD, go ahead and just convert the number at the end of the video, and then you'll know how much this build cost. So the intake was $450 Canadian, a little bit on the cheaper side compared to some of the other intakes that you can get. I know there's an APR intake, which is a closed box. I know 034 makes an intake as well. Theirs is definitely a little bit more expensive. Next up, and this isn't in order of way I've modded things, I've kind of like did it all over the place. I actually only just recently went stage 2, so a lot of the supporting mods I've had for a long time. But next up is the catch can, which is a PCV delete, so that gets rid of your positive crankcase ventilation system, which is prone to allowing oil into your intake system, which causes a lot of the carbon buildup that plagues the 2 liters in the Mark 6, the A3, the A4, etc. So the catch can is a CTS Turbo catch can / PCV delete. That was 605 Canadian dollars. Definitely one of the amounts of money that I have no problem spending. I haven't done the carbon cleaning on this car yet, which will be a video that I will be doing in the near future, as I'm definitely due for it now at 73,000 kilometers. But hopefully it prevents that problem and brings the carbon buildup down, as you know, it's one of those things that you don't want to ruin your engine. So definitely an essential mod in my viewpoint, but for you it may not be. Next up is actually my most recent modification, which I just did, which was a CTS Turbo once again. Intercooler. This is a direct or bolt-on modification. A lot of people commonly do the S3 intercooler upgrade. I chose not to do the S3 intercooler, not only because it's really hard to find S3s in the 8P chassis here in Canada, but it's just, there was no point in me looking to do power mods and getting another OEM part, because I had access to my local dealer, CTS, which is local to me, and got an intercooler. I actually didn't pay brand new price for this intercooler. I actually got it second hand and it was in really good condition, but we're just going off of the cost of parts brand new. So the intercooler was $1,075 Canadian brand new from CTS. You know, it's just another mod you can put on top of going stage 2 to help you make a little bit more power. You can check out my intercooler video if you want to see the difference that it makes going from stage 2 and just slapping an intercooler on with no changes to your tune at all. Speaking of stage 2, the next mod we're going to talk about is obviously the downpipe. So there are tons and tons and tons and tons of options when it comes to selecting a downpipe. For me, it was basically what I could find readily available at the time. When I started modding this car, I didn't actually have a lot of money, so I was looking for secondhand options, and that led me towards an HPA downpipe that I found, which had a high flow catalytic converter. So it has a 100 cell high flow cat on my downpipe, which brings the price of it new up quite a bit. I think it's about $100 US, but the total cost for the downpipe new is 990 Canadian dollars just for the HPA downpipe. Yeah, definitely another one of those things that you need for stage 2 because of the limitations of, I believe our cars have 2 catalytic converters and a resonator on the stock downpipe, and now I only have 1. So there's that. Next up, we're gonna go and talk about more supporting stuff. We're getting away from power mods now. Is springs. This car isn't on coilovers. I don't know if it'll ever be on coilovers. If I decide to track the car, obviously I will go to a little bit of a stiffer setup, which will either be coilovers or shock or spring and strut, or maybe even bags in the future. We'll see what we decide. The springs on this car are H&R Sportline springs, which is a 1.3 inch overall drop front and rear, I believe. And those were 300 Canadian dollars. I didn't get those locally. Another thing that I basically got used, but I actually bought them brand new in the packaging, like never been used, for a lot cheaper than $300 Canadian. So luckily that was a good find. Next up is another mod that I am starting to consider quite an essential part for an upgrade, which is my DV Plus. So the DV Plus is essentially an upgraded piston that you put in your diverter valve, and it basically, for me, what I've been seeing is that it holds your boost pressure a lot more consistently, I guess could be a better word, because with the stock diverter valve, they're prone to having failure in the little diaphragm, so it's kind of one of those preventative upgrades that you can do in order to, you know, prevent things in the future. After I installed the diverter valve, I noticed that it was definitely like it made not a substantial difference, but quite a noticeable one in terms of getting on throttle and having that boost pressure be able to hold. So far, I have no complaints with it. It was definitely a good find. That will run you $150 Canadian for the DV Plus. Definitely one of those mods that you could look into if you just want to start doing cheaper little supporting mods and you're planning on doing your stage upgrade, stage 1 and stage 2. So you can look into that. They're an Australian company, so it's actually going to be an Australian dollars purchase, which is almost the same as Canadian dollars. And now, since we're talking about doing stage modifications, let's talk about my tunes. Now this will vary depending on who you choose to tune your car, if you're doing plug and play, if you're doing pro tuning, dyno tuning, whatever. The tune that I have is a well-known diesel tuner known as Malone Tuning here in British Columbia. They actually tuned my car. My car obviously isn't diesel. They did a fantastic job. The tune is amazing. I have the stage 2 tune as well as a DSG flash, which if you don't do the DSG flash, especially with just having an A3, you're gonna run into the problem of the clutches slipping, which I had, which is just proof of like how important it is to get your DSG tuned. So my ECU tune and my DSG tune was actually discounted because of some people that I knew, but that tune with the DSG tune is gonna run you $1,000 Canadian, which is pretty ballpark for doing the ECU and the DSG in whatever Audi, or if you own a Golf R or a GTI or whatever, that's pretty standard. Next up is a supporting mod for stage 2. I only did this upgrade because I had an issue with my Coilpacks, and this is a pretty common one among the GTI guys, and that is obviously doing R8 Coilpacks. R8 Coilpacks just basically are a more robust factory coil pack option. You can get an aftermarket ones. They're basically all the same. Some will run you a little bit more, some will be cheaper, and it just gives you a more consistent spark at top end, so that when you're absolutely beating the crap out of your car, or driving in the canyons or on the track, you don't have number one, coil pack failure, which is what I had, and then also you have a really consistent spark. You're never gonna hit top end and you're gonna run out of capacity that your coil pack is able to deliver to your spark plugs. Now to the second to last mod, which I currently am not running right now because these are my wheels and tires. In my fitment video was basically the first day that I had my wheels and tires set up on my A3. The wheels that I had were Audi S4 peelers, so these are 19 by 8.5, I believe. Just a factory or an OEM Audi option. They look really nice on this car. The fitment is good, the offset is perfect. I wasn't running any spacers when I had these wheels on in good weather. And then the tires that I had on those rims were Firehawk Indy 500s, which are definitely not all season at all. A super good street tire for when it's dry out. Really grippy. I never had any tire squeal during hard cornering. I felt planted all the time, except when there is understeer, which is a common thing for our cars. And they were obviously, if you've seen the video, or I'll put the photo up, these were powder coated, custom bronze, clear coated, and then also ceramic coated. So these are super clean, always look fantastic. And it was just an overall very nice look for the car. Unfortunately, they are quite heavy, so these aren't by any means a performance rim. It's definitely just an aesthetic look for the vehicle at this point, and I'll be looking into getting a much lighter rim in the near future. And the last mod, if you even want to consider this a mod for my build at this moment, is I have the Audi OEM 8P roof rack, which is obviously something that you can get from the factory. Mine didn't come with it from the factory, and I actually had to buy it secondhand off of someone who was selling their A3. That ran me about $300 Canadian. I don't really know what the roof rack is worth brand new from Audi. I'm assuming it's probably more than $300. So that is the build so far for the A3. Real quickly, I know there's going to be a couple more mods coming pretty soon, maybe even before the end of the year, and I'm going to try to get them done so that my channel isn't just completely barren until COVID's over. We're going to be looking into doing a custom catback. I've been trying to find a decent catback for a long time, as the car is quite quiet, even with the stock muffler, even though I preach to people that the stock muffler it sounds fine with a downpipe. I'm going to try and do that. And then another thing, as I mentioned before, we do have quite a bit of understeer in this chassis, so we're going to try and get our hands on a rear sway bar pretty soon here. Not sure what company I'm going to go with. So the total cost for the A3 build so far, and this is obviously not in the used prices that I paid for some of my components, $6,620 Canadian dollars so far. There might be some small little things that I'm missing here and there, like I've got a custom 8P magnetic mount for my phone, some little interior things that I've done here and there, but that's just for anything that's performance and or exterior mods on the A3. So thank you guys for watching my little build breakdown of the A3. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Like I said, videos are going to keep coming. I really do like this car. I'm looking into getting another Audi pretty soon here, hopefully in the beginning of next year, when things kind of clear up with COVID and life goes back to normal. But anyways guys, peace out, and I will see you in the next video.